This video is sponsored by PDS Debt. On Monday, April 25th, 2011, the weather in the U.S. state of Alabama was actually quite nice.
I hope you had a good Easter holiday. Looking good out there as we watch the sunrise here in a few minutes.
The sun was out, it was 80 degrees, spring was in the air. However, there was much talk of a potential major severe thunderstorm and tornado outbreak heading towards the state.
The weather is quiet this morning, but it could turn very active over the entire southeast, especially by midweek.
Wednesday, unfortunately, tornadoes in the forecast. Main time frame from 2 p.m. in our western counties to around 8, 9, 10 o'clock in our easternmost counties.
The meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma, noted major atmospheric instability throughout the central and south U.S. In fact, major storms were already beginning to erupt over the states of Arkansas and Texas, and this system was heading towards the east into even more favorable conditions for tornadogenesis, right over the state of Alabama. For this reason, the National Weather Service on their Day 3 convective outlook issued a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk for severe weather and tornadoes for Wednesday, April 27th in Alabama. The report stated this: yet another day of potentially very significant severe weather is expected Wednesday and early Thursday, April 27th and 28th, with elevated threat for a tornado outbreak evident across the Mid-South and into portions of the central Gulf Coast states. However, the people of Alabama were not too worried. They were familiar with severe weather and a few occasional tornadoes during the spring, so many didn't give the warning much thought. Little did they know that this storm would be different. This storm would be one of the most insane, catastrophic thunderstorms in not only Alabama's history, but in the history of the entire world.
There it is right there, and there, folks, is the tornado. That is the tornado.
Is a significant tornado situation.
Get in your safe place right now. We have a tornado on the ground.
Neighbors for years made homeless in an instant.
This will be a day that will go down in state history.
By the next day, Tuesday, April 26th, things were beginning to look even more alarming, and the meteorologist at the National Weather Service took note. While the Day 2 convective outlook still only had a potential for severe weather at a level 4 out of 5, moderate risk, they noted various atmospheric ingredients coming together, all that could lead to a dangerous weather event. They issued this statement: outbreak of severe thunderstorms possible. Indications are strongly suggestive that a major outbreak of severe thunderstorms commencing tonight across past of the Ozark Plateau / Lower Mississippi Valley will continue and expand northward and eastward toward the Appalachians during the day Wednesday. This will include the potential for long-lived supercells capable of strong tornadoes and organized storm clusters capable of strong, damaging wind gusts. Some National Weather Service meteorologists were also noticing some similarities between this tornado outbreak setup with one that occurred nearly 40 years ago. Way back in 1974, an extremely rare major tornado super outbreak occurred over the southeast and central U.S. One could call this event a storm of the century. On that day, 330 plus lives were lost when at least 149 tornadoes tore through the south central U.S. It was absolutely devastating. This was an event that every meteorology student studied in school. Some thought that such an event would never happen again. You see, the atmospheric conditions needed for this storm of the century to occur were extremely rare, but similar conditions were beginning to come together nearly 40 years later on April 26, 2011. Meteorologists were seeing many patterns and similarities to the 1974 super outbreak. Could it happen again? The threat of a potential large tornado outbreak started to get picked up by the media.
We're expecting some long hours.
We are. This is as I've used the term before, a high-impact weather event. It's going to affect practically every portion of our viewing area, and we are talking about a threat for tornadoes. You know, if you ever listen to me do TV weather, most of the time I don't use the tornado word specifically. I'll say strong to severe storms. These are the ingredients that produce tornadoes, and those tornadoes that are the big ones that do significant damage.
The media was very much hyping up the storm. In fact, many schools in Alabama had even canceled classes for the next day. And unfortunately, tornadoes were beginning to form earlier than expected. Weak tornadoes were already forming in Louisiana and Mississippi around midnight, and this first wave was expected to reach the high-risk area over Alabama in the middle of the night. Night or nocturnal tornadoes are terrifying, and they're 2 times deadlier than their daytime counterparts. This is because 1, you're sleeping, and 2, you can't see them. Obviously, they slowly creep up on you from the shadows. Many in Alabama went to bed that evening with the horrifying thought of being awoken by sirens in the distance in the middle of the night, warning them of an approaching tornado. And around 3 a.m., their fears would become reality when the first tornadoes of the outbreak began to form. But before we get to that, there may be something even more sinister in the shadows, something that harms millions of Americans every day. I'm talking about debt. Debt is awful. It's like a hole that you keep on digging that you can never truly get out of. Interest rates, late fees, collection calls, it's a never-ending cycle. And if you're in a bad debt situation, there is a remedy to your debt woes. I'm talking about today's video sponsor, PDS Debt. PDS Debt is a financial technology company that has helped over 102,000 Americans resolve over $500 million in debt since 2021. They do things differently. They use smart, data-driven technology to actually build a plan around you. Whether you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, PDS Debt has custom options to help you get out of debt. They go beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalized plan designed just for you. It's like hitting the reset button on your finances. Have bad credit? No problem. Your credit score doesn't matter. Whether you're rebuilding or just trying to get a fresh start, PDS Debt helps you pay off your debt faster, save more, and finally keep your hard-earned money where it belongs, in your pocket. They've got an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, 4.9 stars on Google, and 4.9 on Trustpilot. That's because they actually care about transparency, ethics, and making sure every client succeeds. Debt doesn't have to control your life. Get your free assessment today at pdsdebt.com/swiggle and find your path to financial freedom. You're only 30 seconds away from taking the first step. pdsdebt.com/swiggle. Thank you so much to PDS Debt for sponsoring the video. Unfortunately, the first wave of storms with embedded tornadoes were already organizing around 3 a.m. On radar, this first wave appeared as a large squall line / bow echo. This entire bow echo region is a threat featuring lots of lightning, high winds. However, it's the areas of rotation within this line of storms that have the high potential for tornado formation. During this time, meteorologist Jason Simpson of ABC 33/40 out of Birmingham went live to cover the various tornado warnings that cropped up.
I'm Jason Simpson live in the ABC 3340 Storm Alert Center. The National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for Pickens County and Lamar County until 4:15 this morning because of a cell that is still just a little bit southeast of Columbus, Mississippi.
One such warning would become the first significant tornado of the outbreak. The tornado itself formed around 3:41 a.m. and lasted about 30 minutes as it tore from Gordo to Samantha in Alabama. Thankfully, there were no fatalities, but several homes were heavily damaged and large swaths of forest were completely destroyed. This first significant tornado was an EF3 with wind speeds near 140 miles per hour. In the 4 o'clock hour, several other EF3s formed. One such EF3 was approaching the town of Cordova around 4:20. It was here that dozens of homes were destroyed, with many sustaining significant injuries. It was a strong tornado. However, it can't even begin to compare with what was to come. This was just the beginning. At 5:30 a.m., Chief Meteorologist James Spann showed up at the studio at ABC 3340 and got to work.
It's 5:40. A lot of you are just waking up now to the sirens going off. Let's show the reflectivity. And let me just say, anybody in advance of this line, I know there are specific tornado warnings for small spots within the line, but anybody in advance of this line could see winds easily over 50 or 60 miles an hour.
James Spann would later become legendary for his excellent and professional coverage of the tornado outbreak. He would be live on air for pretty much the entire day. At this point, many schools in Alabama were either delayed or canceled for the day. On top of that, many parts of Alabama had their communication infrastructure completely destroyed by the earlier storms, making it hard for students to even know if they had class to begin with. This would also become problematic during the main tornado sequence later in the day. Finally, after a weaker supercell dissipated in Marion County in western Alabama, things began to die down. Remember, this first wave wasn't really the main event that everyone was worried about. This was just a small teaser for what was to come. At 7:55 a.m. local time, the National Weather Service upgraded their Day 1 convective outlook to the highest possible level, a super rare 5 out of 5 high risk. The summary stated this: dangerous tornado outbreak is expected from late morning into late evening. The scenario appears favorable for multiple long-track supercells with the potential to produce intense/damaging tornadoes in the high-risk area. Now, real quick, I do want to mention that on April 11th, 2006, the National Weather Service also predicted a level 5 out of 5 high-risk area, this time over Louisiana and Mississippi. And nothing happened. It was a bust. You see, when it comes to tornadoes, sometimes you have bust days. The atmosphere is complicated. Sometimes the conditions can actually be too unstable, leading to a massive squall line, which actually hurts the formation of isolated supercells. And you need isolated supercells for strong tornadoes. These sort of things are just very difficult to predict. Sometimes they can end up being a bust. Unfortunately, that wouldn't be the case this time. Over western Mississippi, the deadly line of severe storms and supercells began to take shape. By 11:30 a.m., the National Weather Service issued this tornado probability forecast. This map shows an insanely rare 45% chance of a tornado within 20 miles of any given point within this area. They stated this: this system is very organized, and confidence is high regarding the potential for a major tornado outbreak this afternoon and evening across the central Gulf Coast states and Tennessee Valley. This then led them to issuing a rare PDS, particularly dangerous tornado watch at 1:45 p.m. This PDS tornado watch was to last from 2 p.m. until 9 p.m. that night. And right at 2 p.m. in the early afternoon, just as predicted, things began to heat up. Little blips quickly formed into massive supercells, the parent thunderstorm that produces tornadoes. While we have mainly focused on Alabama, let's go back and take a look at the high-risk area. As you can see, it also includes portions of Mississippi. And it's in Mississippi that we have our first extremely powerful tornado of the outbreak. Earlier, around 1 p.m., a supercell began to form over Jackson, Mississippi. By 2, this storm had intensified significantly and formed the classic supercell hook echo on radar. Seeing something like this is always a red flag for tornadoes. This prompted the National Weather Service to issue a tornado warning over central Mississippi. Then at 2:30, a funnel dropped from the supercell north of Philadelphia. While weak at first, it quickly intensified to an EF4, with wind speeds over 180 miles per hour. But the tornado would not stop there. It continued to strengthen as it destroyed forests and dug trenches into the ground down 2 feet deep. The wind strength needed to do something like this is insane. And it was enough evidence for the National Weather Service surveyors to later certify this tornado as an EF5, the highest level possible with wind speeds around 205 miles per hour. It was the first EF5 of the outbreak. This first major significant tornado of the outbreak lasted 30 minutes until it finally weakened and dissipated near Moshulville. This tornado claimed 3 lives. Any other year, this tornado would be a significant event. People would talk about it for decades. However, since this occurred during the super outbreak, many people don't even remember it. It has become a completely forgotten EF5. Just 5 minutes after this tornado dissipated, a new tornado formed over Marion County, Alabama. This tornado would eventually become an EF5, but instead of claiming 3 lives, this tornado would end up killing 71. Back at ABC 3340, James Spann and Jason Simpson were covering a significant EF4 tornado near Cullman. This would be the first EF4 of the outbreak over the state of Alabama. While there are tons of insane TV meteorological coverage moments from this outbreak, the first might be during the Cullman Skycam footage at ABC 3340.
And gosh, goodness gracious, let's take a look at those cloud bases. Are you kidding me? And you know,
I cannot believe we can see that far away.
When you're a TV meteorologist and you see rotation or a hook echo on radar, you think, oh, there's potentially a tornado on the ground right there. But you don't know for sure. You can only see indications via radar. But when you pull up a Skycam that 100% shows the tornado tearing through a forest, things become very serious.
Few minutes.
Look at that. The funnel's getting tighter.
I see it there. Okay. Again,
let's get tighter in on that thing. I'm going to take the higher compression off so we can move faster. That's a tornado that's got to be on the ground. Look at that.
We got a tornado down. This is a tornado emergency for the city of Cullman.
Yeah, and I think at West Cullman, you are in most danger of this. Look, I can see the debris cloud at the bottom of it. That is west of downtown Cullman. If you're anywhere from Kugler Creek to downtown Cullman, we can't. I mean, it's obvious. You've got to get to safety.
At this point, the National Weather Service issued a rare tornado emergency for Cullman, Alabama. This is a step up from a tornado warning. So you have tornado watch, tornado warning, and then finally tornado emergency. The Cullman tornado would end up claiming 6 lives. But let's go back to the tornado forming over Marion County, Alabama, just southwest of Hamilton in northwestern Alabama. While the Cullman tornado is significant, it is this tornado that would arguably be the worst of the entire super outbreak. This was first noticed by Jason and James Spann at ABC 3340 just after 3 p.m. Interestingly, they stated that they thought there was only one tornado warning, the Cullman tornado, but right at that time, right when they said that, this new tornado warning was issued.
And again, we are not ignoring any other part of the state. This is the only severe storm in our part of Alabama. I take it back. We have a new tornado warning for Lamar and Marion. All right, so what we're going to do, let's go off of the image and let's put me with the radar behind me. This is a new tornado warning for Lamar and Marion counties. It was nice while it lasted.
This is what it was like for the entire super outbreak. There were just tornado warnings cropping up all over the place. There was really never a time to catch your breath. This new tornado initially caused tree damage in the EF1 and EF2 range, but it quickly intensified to an EF4. At this time, a new tornado emergency was issued for Hamilton, but thankfully, it would miss the main part of the city. However, the town of Hackleburg was in its direct path. And by the time it actually reached Hackleburg, it was at an EF5 strength with winds over 200 miles per hour. The tornado tore through Hackleburg, destroying close to 75% of it, claiming 18 lives in the process. Unfortunately, this was just the beginning. The tornado was now heading towards the town of Phil Campbell. Around this time, another legendary meteorologist, Dr. Greg Forbes of the Weather Channel, began covering the tornado as it headed towards Phil Campbell. They also issued, for the first time ever, a level 10 out of 10 on the Tornado Condition Index.
We've upped the value to a 10. If you're in northern Alabama, it's a 100% chance that you're going to see a tornado within 50 miles. And they may not be just ordinary tornadoes. These are destructive, potentially long-lived tornadoes.
The tornado entered the southwest portion of Phil Campbell at EF5 strength. Throughout the town, hundreds of structures, including residential and mobile homes, as well as several churches, were destroyed all the way down to the slabs. Many were seeking refuge in a concrete tornado shelter, but the tornado was so powerful, it actually ripped the roof off the shelter itself. Thankfully, everyone in the shelter survived. However, throughout the Phil Campbell area itself, 21 would lose their lives. A debris ball then formed on radar, showing that the tornado was indeed destructive. Debris balls are not good. That's literally debris in the air being picked up on radar.
And track where that debris ball has been. You see the Phil Campbell area. We had reports of tornado going across Phil Campbell. You saw as it came into Phil Campbell, it still had that debris ball.
After leaving Phil Campbell, the EF5 mile-wide tornado continued to the northeast, where it would destroy several homes throughout rural Alabama. It would then strike the town of Mount Hope, which saw 5 more fatalities, as well as Hillsboro, where an additional 3 deaths would occur. In Mount Hope, retired WAAY meteorologist Gary Dobbs saw the tornado approaching from his porch. This is his account on what he witnessed.
It's just covered the entire sky. I've never seen a wall cloud that large. And then I was watching to see if I could see the cone shape, the funnel cloud form under it, and I saw that pretty quick coming over the mountain range over there. And then I started looking for the debris field under it, which would confirm it as a tornado. And then pretty quick, it became evident that there was a huge debris field. And as we survey this spot where the tornado came through, I estimated it to be at least 3/4 of a mile wide.
Since Dobbs was a meteorologist, he was very interested in the terrifying aspects of the tornado. I mean, he's into weather, so he just kept on watching it. Unfortunately, the tornado was heading straight towards him. Dobbs was on the phone and he essentially ran out of time. His last words were, "I gotta go," as the tornado began destroying his house. Somehow he managed to reach an interior closet and miraculously he survived. This is him walking through the wreckage of his home after the event. Finally, after being on the ground for an astonishing 1 hour and 45 minutes, the tornado would dissipate. Overall, 71 lives were lost, with over $1 billion worth of damage. The Hackleburg Phil Campbell EF5 tornado is one of the worst and most significant in all tornado history. It's one of the costliest and one of the deadliest in the past few decades. In fact, at the time, it was the deadliest single tornado since 80 were killed in the 1955 Utah, Kansas F5. However, the Joplin EF5 would occur less than a month later, and it would quickly take the title with 158 fatalities. 2011 was a crazy year for tornadoes. The super outbreak was now in full swing. Tornadoes were forming all over the place. On the Weather Channel, they have a segment known as The Local on the 8s. It's where they tell you about your local weather like on every 8, so like 11:08, 11:18, 11:28. Anyway, this is what they had on during the Local on the 8s in Alabama at that time. Look at the number of warnings, and when it's paired with that music, my goodness. The next major tornado would form at 342 back in Mississippi. A new supercell that had already produced an EF3 tornado earlier began forming yet another tornado 3 miles southwest of Smithville. By the time it reached the town of Smithville, it had strengthened to an EF5 with winds around 205 miles per hour. WTVA News picked up on a very obvious debris ball in their coverage.
Now I will give you your debris ball.
There you go.
This is a significant tornado situation moving toward Turon and New Salem. Tornado safe place, and I can't say this often enough. Lowest floor of a sturdy structure. I always say lowest floor of your home. If your home is a mobile home, that's not low enough. Air can get beneath a mobile home, lift it up and flip it. That's why a mobile home is different than a home that's on a concrete slab or one that's fixed to a foundation.
This tornado was so powerful that it picked up an SUV and threw it so high in the air, it bounced off the Smithville water tower. You can literally see the dent. Incredible. While Smithville is a pretty small town, the tornado still managed to claim 23 lives. Overall, the tornado lasted 41 minutes and dissipated at 4:23. Now, thankfully, so far during this outbreak, only smaller towns have been impacted by tornadoes. The major population centers had been mostly untouched. Well, that was about to change when a new supercell developed southwest of Tuscaloosa at 4:40 in the afternoon. Back at ABC 3340, James and Jason noticed the potential threat.
We've got two circulations right here. Number one, number two. This is the circulation that is riding now the north bank of the Sipsey River, coming up toward the community of Benevola, which is in Pickens County, and that's going to be moving up into Tuscaloosa County, maybe affecting Buell and Coker and Elrod. The dominant circulation, more than likely, it's the southern storm because it's taking all of the good inflow away from this one, but both of them are dangerous. But the southern storm is going to be doing the same thing. These are parallel tracks.
One of the ABC affiliate storm chasers, John Oldshoe, confirmed the tornado was indeed on the ground heading towards Tuscaloosa.
Play-by-play there, and we're going to take a look at Oldshoe's live stream too.
All right, goodness gracious. All right, tell you what, let's take John's live stream on the MacBook Pro here in the weather office. That is a large wedge tornado.
Well, James, this is Dr. Tim Coleman. It's a multiple vortex tornado also.
Okay, and again, I want to be sure people listening and watching understand. You are watching a large tornado that is approaching Tuscaloosa.
This video shows the tornado still 30 minutes away from Tuscaloosa, and many who lived in Tuscaloosa at the time didn't take the threat seriously until they saw John's footage. They could see that there was a monster heading straight towards them. And by the way, James Spann credits John's footage for saving many lives that day. It's what was needed to have the people of Tuscaloosa take the threat seriously. Around this time, a new tornado emergency was issued for the city by the National Weather Service. The tornado continued creeping towards Tuscaloosa, and the meteorologist at ABC 3340 put up the Skycam pointed in the direction of the tornado.
So again, everybody in Tuscaloosa should just be shutting down. And I guess we can't see anything on the Skycam, Jason, from Tuscaloosa because rain's going to be blocking, because we got rain falling up here.
We're looking right into the core of rain and hail that'll come into Tuscaloosa, but
they sat there and just waited for it to make its appearance. And just after 5, a fuzzy tornado shape began to appear.
But I think there is a tornado right in there. You can see where the cursor is going. It looks like there's debris.
There's debris down there. There's clearly debris.
There's a debris.
As the tornado became more obvious, James Spann, for the first time in hours, was speechless.
All right, look at the debris. Look at the debris in that. Zoom in tighter, Jason, if we can go in tighter. Look at that. Goodness gracious. This will be a day that will go down in state history. And all you can do is pray for those people.
And all you can do is pray. That has become a very famous quote from this outbreak. And it wasn't just James and Jason at ABC 3340. The CBS affiliate WIAT also filmed the tornado as it crossed into the city.
Power flash is going on with it as well. This is, folks, this is a violent tornado. This is really violent. Okay, look at that. There is the tornado. It's now moving right up I-20. This is Skyland Boulevard. You see something like this out on the Great Plains, the Central Plains.
The tornado maintained EF4 strength as it tore through southeastern Tuscaloosa near Skyland Boulevard. Some of the most impacted structures included Rosedale Court, where 5 lives were lost, as well as Charleston Square, where 2 University of Alabama students lost their lives. Overall, the tornado would claim 6 University of Alabama students. One famous example is Ashley Harrison. She was the girlfriend of University of Alabama long snapper Carson Tinker. Both of them were inside a closet inside this exact house when the tornado completely destroyed it. Unfortunately, in the process, Ashley Harrison had lost her life. Carson later wrote a book about his experience. After the tornado destroyed the suburb of Alberta City, it damaged the roof of the La Roca nursing home. While the damage wasn't super intense at the nursing home, it created dangerous conditions, leading to residents of the nursing home passing away from exposure in the days following the outbreak. The tornado then crossed into the suburb of Holt, where 2 more lives were lost. Finally, it exited the city of Tuscaloosa. Unfortunately, this tornado was not over. In fact, there was another, even larger city in its path: Birmingham. After destroying a large line of forests between the 2 cities, the tornado would enter the western-northwestern part of Birmingham around 6 p.m. at high-end EF4 strength. This meant that it had winds near 190 miles per hour. Greg Forbes and company at the Weather Channel covered the event and managed to capture video of the massive dark cloud shrouding the tornado inside, heading towards the city.
Probably about 50 miles an hour. It looks like it's going to pass to the north of downtown. Again, a tornado emergency now in effect for Birmingham, Alabama, Greg.
Yeah, and look how wide that is. It's filling the entire camera screen. So this is either one very, very large tornado or more likely a combination of just the whole rotating parent wall cloud.
The Skycam footage is terrifying. The tornado is obscured by rain and debris, so it's hard to make out exactly where it is. Some have even argued that this may be a true mega wedge tornado. This is when the wall cloud itself reaches the ground. An ultra rare and dangerous event. Either way, everyone knew that this system had just left a path of destruction in Tuscaloosa, so they knew the tornado was in there somewhere. And it was. The tornado traveled through the northwestern section of Birmingham, killing 20 people and causing devastating damage to the suburbs of Concord, Pleasant Grove, and McDonald Chapel. Finally, after an hour and 30 minutes, the tornado dissipated north of the city. Throughout its entire lifespan, 64 people lost their lives, and $2.5 billion worth of damage had occurred. It was the costliest tornado of all time, until Joplin on May 22nd, less than a month later. The tornado officially has a rating of EF4, with wind speeds near 195 miles per hour. However, many have argued that it was actually an EF5, with winds over 200 miles per hour. Many EF4 tornadoes from this outbreak, by the way, many have argued were actually EF5s. At this point, already over 100 tornadoes of various sizes and strengths had torn through the southeastern United States, mostly in Alabama and Mississippi, but also in parts of Tennessee and Georgia. In fact, there was even a tornado reported in Indiana. But the day wasn't over yet. 5 minutes after the Tuscaloosa Birmingham tornado dissipated, a new tornado formed at 6:19 p.m. from a supercell in northeast Alabama. This tornado initially maintained EF3 strength as it devastated the communities of Lakeside and Fife. The tornado then, however, grew to over a mile wide as it approached the town of Rainsville. It also, at this time, reached EF5 intensity with wind speeds around 200 miles per hour. The tornado tragically struck the city where it took the lives of 25 people. This makes this tornado one of the deadlier tornadoes of the entire outbreak. After being on the ground for 36 minutes, this tornado finally dissipated over Georgia. In some ways, this tornado, like the Philadelphia, Mississippi EF5 we talked about earlier, has also become forgotten because of all the other major tornado events that had occurred earlier in the day. Thankfully, though, this would be the last EF5 rated tornado of the storm. This same supercell would go on to produce another high-end EF4 tornado at 7:15 that struck the community of Ringgold, Georgia. It was in Ringgold that 20 more fatalities occurred. It was also getting dark around this time, so like I said earlier, tornadoes were becoming more and more dangerous. Thankfully, the favorable atmospheric conditions for tornadoes were beginning to weaken.
There are no tornado warnings in Alabama for the first time in I don't know when.
In fact, the very last EF4 of the event occurred just after 8 p.m. when another somewhat forgotten EF4 struck lakeside cabins surrounding Lake Martin in Alabama, claiming 7 lives in the process. From 8 until close to midnight, various EF3s and dozens of weaker EF0s through EF2s formed over the states of Tennessee, Georgia, and Virginia. But thankfully, the 2011 super outbreak was for the most part over. Let's have a look at some satellite imagery from that day. Here's the first line of storms that happened in the middle of the night. And here is the main wave with tons of supercells popping up all over the place. Let's also take a look at the radar imagery as well as the various tornado warnings that were reported throughout the day. Insanity. Overall, there were at least 368 tornadoes throughout the outbreak, making it the largest tornado outbreak on record. It was indeed the first super tornado outbreak since 1974. 324 lives were lost. Adjusted for 2025 inflation, this event cost $15 billion in damage, making it the costliest outbreak in history. There were also major infrastructure damages that left many without power for the weeks during the recovering process. President Barack Obama issued a federal emergency for the state of Alabama, and 2,000 National Guard troops were deployed.
The loss of life has been heartbreaking, especially in Alabama. In a matter of hours, these deadly tornadoes, some of the worst that we've seen in decades, took mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends and neighbors, even entire communities. Others are injured, and some are still missing. And in many places, the damage to homes and businesses is nothing short of catastrophic.
He would later visit the damage himself.
This unbelievable storm. We just took a tour, and I've got to say, I've never seen devastation like this.
Many experienced meteorologists were shocked at what they had just witnessed. Like I said, they studied the 1974 super outbreak in school. Many didn't think such an outbreak would happen in their lives.
The 1974 outbreak, I was still in high school. I was not doing this for a living, so I technically did not work that. I worked it as a volunteer, but in my career, I would say this is the one day this has happened, and I started doing this here in 1979. So don't be afraid of storms. This is what we experience today is probably a generational type event.
Now, today's meteorology students, they study this event, as well as the 1974 super outbreak, but they studied this event probably more so than that outbreak. And speaking of meteorology students, major shout out to the National Weather Service for doing an impeccable job during this event. I mean, think of all the warnings that they had to issue, all the watches. I mean, we're not just talking about tornado warnings, we're talking about severe thunderstorm warnings, flood warnings. I mean, there was like snow happening during this outbreak way up north. So shout out to the National Weather Service, as well as the various TV personalities that helped keep people safe during this event. Just to emphasize how crazy this event was, I'm on Google Earth. You can literally see the tracks of the tornadoes essentially from space. So if you go back to 2011 in December, see these tracks? Those are from the tornadoes from the outbreak. Here's the one that went through Tuscaloosa. Down here is the Lake Martin tornado track. And you can tell, so if you go back 1 year, they're gone. And you move forward, there they are, which is insane. You can see them all over the state. Hey, look at this, right through there. Crazy. And I also found this remnant. I mean, I'm sure there's tons of different examples of this, but during the super outbreak, a house was destroyed right here, and to this day, the remnants are still there. I really just want to emphasize the insanity and rarity of this event. Something like this has only really happened twice in recorded history, in 1974 and during this outbreak in 2011. Tornadoes are rare in general throughout the entire planet. While you do get an occasional large tornado in like Europe or China, it's really just North America that gets violent tornadoes on a somewhat regular basis. But an outbreak of violent tornadoes? Almost unheard of. If our planet's geography was like slightly different, an event like this might not even be possible. Think of it this way, in the past 10 years, we've had one EF5 tornado throughout the entire planet. But on this day alone in 2011, there were 4. It was seriously a storm of the century. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.